Hey, I'm Obi. That said, and we are from the Guardian Host, your favorite podcast. Get us wherever you can get your podcasts. Apple, Google, all those good places. Download us, subscribe, leave comments. We're good. Now, this is a special bonus episode. As you can see, it's on our off week. And replacing me, we have a special guest. I hope he can stand up to Ed's bullying. We have Ed's nephew, Anthony. You remember him from our Tesla episode. Ed, how are you and Anthony? And let everyone know and take it away.
All right, so I am actually doing really good today. It is a little chilly where we are recording this podcast, but other than that, it's an amazing day. And what we're going to be talking about today is cruising. Now, you remember me from the Tesla podcast. It was one of the most downloaded podcasts, so thank you for that. And let's now jump right into the cruising. So the first thing you may be wondering is, where can I take a cruise? Because you may not know where cruises go in and out of. So you will want to go out of any port you feel comfortable, like Port Canaveral in Florida, Orlando, or close to Orlando. You can go out of New York. You can go out of Miami. You can go out of a lot of places around the world, and you'll be fine as long as you choose the right cruise line, because some cruise lines offer less than you expect.
So, Anthony, a lot to unpack there. So before we get into cruise lines offering less than you expect, let's talk about the ports that you can leave from. Are there advantages to leaving from, say, Florida or from New York?
So there may be a few advantages from leaving out of New York. The first, you will be able to see the Statue of Liberty coming in and out of port, which I've actually woken up at like 4 a.m. just to see the Statue of Liberty quite a few times in my 13 cruises I've done.
Is that a humble brag? When you say 13 cruises, is that a humble brag?
Maybe. I'm not sure yet.
Okay. All right. So Statue of Liberty for New York. What about Florida? What's the benefit from going out of Florida?
The benefit of going out of Florida is, one, you can go there year-round and you'll be fine, because you don't really need a coat. You don't really need a million sweatshirts. You just need a short sleeve shirt and then just all shorts, and you're all good to go out of Port Canaveral, like Florida. But another thing is, if you go to Port Canaveral, Cape Canaveral, as some call it, you can see the Space Center if you look in the right direction. And the previous cruise I went on out of Cape Canaveral, when we were undocking on the Norwegian Escape, we got to see some dolphins, which is kind of cool, because I haven't really seen dolphins in the Florida area in my lifetime, minus the Bahamas. I've seen a few in the Bahamas, but yeah, that's an advantage. You may see dolphins.
All right. I think another advantage could be that you get to go further south, right? So if you leave from Florida, your ship might be able to get to Jamaica, maybe Mexico, Honduras, maybe Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands. But if you go to New York, you kind of get to Florida, right?
Well, I did go on 1 or 2 cruises out of New York, 7-day, that went down to the Bahamas for like 2-3 days total. It was like 4, 5, 6, like around like 4 days, sea days. So like the 2 days will be going down to like Private Island or like Puerto Rico or something.
Sure.
And then 2 days back to New York.
Okay, so all right, so we talked about the ports. Now you were getting into the cruise lines, the benefits, certain cruise lines. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, so some cruise lines offer more than you expect, and some offer less than you expect. An example of this could be Carnival, because you may expect just like pure fun. You may expect pure joy. Your kids will be in good hands.
Yeah, it's the fun ships. They're the fun ships.
Exactly. But there's no kids club, and it's mostly meant for adults, because there's lots of clubs and lots of bars. So it's mostly meant for adults, but Carnival's trying to regroup by, on the newest ships, Carnival Celebration and Mardi Gras, as of recording, have roller coasters. So you could bring your kids on that and you'll be fine.
So what you're saying about Carnival is fun is relative. Like when they say the fun ships, it doesn't really mean fun for kids, but it means fun for the grown-up.
Yeah, but when they say choose fun, I think, and it's always the newer ships like the Celebration Mardi Gras they're shooting it on with the roller coaster. And so they'll be like, oh, Carnival has roller coasters on all their ships. So let me go on an older one, see what the roller coaster is like. And then you're disappointed to find out that there's no roller coaster.
That makes sense. Okay, so Carnival might disappoint you. What about, are there any other cruise lines that could disappoint you?
Not really of what I've seen. I mean, Royal Caribbean, the only disadvantage to that is you have to memorize this gigantic ship. I mean, like the biggest ships in the world. You have to kind of remember your way around it. Meanwhile, Norwegian, their advantage on like the Breakaway and Breakaway Plus class ships, if you've cruised on them, if you've cruised on Norwegian Breakaway and then go to the like Encore or something, you know your way around the ship. As I know, because in August of 2022, I did cruise Encore Alaska. I mean, on the Encore in Alaska. It was amazing.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about that. Why was it amazing? What was Alaska amazing, or was the Encore amazing? What was amazing about it?
So what was amazing about Norwegian is that one, they have an included bar package for grown-ups.
Oh yeah, that is amazing. I can attest to that.
Yeah, I know you've enjoyed having a few drinks on there.
That's right, but let's not talk about that.
Yeah, let's not talk about that for now. Let's talk about the fun. So there's a nice big buffet at deck 15, I believe, on most of the ships. The older ships, it's on like deck 12.
So fun starts with food with you?
Well, not necessarily. I just put that in so then they kind of know.
Oh, okay. Because some people, fun starts with food.
Some people, yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay.
just wanted to include that in there so I didn't forget. So
Okay.
people who like food, congratulations to you. You were the first on the list. But for me, it isn't the first. The first on the list for the Encore and newer ships like the Encore, Breakaway, Prima. No, not the Breakaway. The Encore, Bliss, Joy, and then now the Prima, Viva, and later this year as of recording, have go-kart tracks. And that's what made it so fun. The Encore has a 2-level go-kart track. It's mostly a 1-level, but then you dip down, dip up for like one.
For the pit stop area, right?
Yeah, but that's where you only get in and out of the cars.
Right.
You can't really actually make a pit stop.
Right. Not like NASCAR.
Not like NASCAR, no.
Got it.
But like the newer ships of Norwegian, like the Prima, as I mentioned, have go-kart tracks. And a new thing called a Galaxy Pavilion. It's a twist on an arcade. It has VR stuff. Has motion.
We have old people that listen to this podcast
so
because it's about old people being cranky. So what does VR mean?
VR means virtual reality, and that's where you put on a headset and then you can see a fantasy world.
And you're in it.
And you're in it, and you can actually like do stuff in it if you have like certain things. So VR is virtual reality.
Okay.
Another thing that is fun is Kids Club. So if you have kids like 3 to 12 to 13, I think 13 is the max, if not 12, you can bring them down to Kids Club on any Norwegian ship, and you can take them out whenever you want.
And so then the parents can go have fun while the kids are having fun in Kids Club.
Exactly. Like you play games like Gaga Ball in Kids Club, which is basically a game where you can only use one hand to push a kickball that is actually very soft if you get hit in the face, so no need to worry about your kids there.
But in Gaga, if you get hit in the face, it's you stay in because it's got to be below the knees, right?
Yeah, knees below for Gaga Ball.
Yep.
Anyway, moving away from that now because I don't want to take up too much time of this podcast.
Okay.
We are now moving to another fun part of Norwegian ships, which I think is just cruising, because cruising is ultimately fun if you know the ship and you have the correct cabin. I'll talk about that in a few minutes, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, if you have the correct materials, if you know what to bring, which is like a suitcase, all the basic stuff you'd bring on like a normal vacation. Not too much though, because you still need to get through ship security. Yeah, you just need all the basic things. Not all the basic things.
Like enough underwear, toothbrush.
Yeah, I recommend if you're on a 7-day cruise, I recommend packing like an extra 3 pairs of clothes in case you get like stranded or in case like
Titanic stranded? Like,
no, not like Titanic stranded, like you can't get off the ship for 3 days.
oh, okay, got it. Oh, like because of COVID, like if all of a sudden your ship is out at sea, you're supposed to be home on Sunday, and they're like, oh, we're not going home till Wednesday. You need that extra. Okay, got it.
You need the extra security in case like clothes are too small for you or whatever. You need that extra security.
Got it. Okay, so you pack the normal stuff, all right? Can we bring booze on the ship? Are we allowed to bring booze on the ship?
So I think you're allowed to. I'm actually not sure about Norwegian, but I know Carnival you're allowed to bring some drinks on the ship.
Hence the fun ship.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Norwegian, I'm not sure about them. Disney Cruise Line, I'm not sure about them, but mostly, yeah, they allow you to bring at least one drink on board.
Yeah. So I'm a cranky old man, so I did the research on this, and unfortunately, because of for whatever reason, probably trying to make money, most cruise ships do not let you bring booze on anymore because they want you to pay for it on the ship, trying to make money off of us.
But Norwegian, the advantage of that is free open bar.
Oh yeah, that's an advantage.
Which means you don't have to get off into a Torla and drink a whole bunch and then miss the ship when you can not spend any money and just go to the ship's bars on Norwegian.
Right.
That's another advantage. So then you don't stumble to the ship and miss the ship, you know?
Right. Yeah. You don't get drunk and forget that your ship is leaving.
Exactly.
Because you're still on the ship for free.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great advantage of it.
We are moving over to the cabins, which I talked about earlier.
Yeah. So tell us about the cabins.
So
I heard they're really small and dark.
Well, some cabins are an inside cabin, which means there's no windows whatsoever. But an ocean view usually means that there's like a window there so you can see out. But then you want to have a balcony so then you can actually see the beauties of like Alaska or the Caribbean or whatever. You want a balcony. But personally, here's a little secret. Get the big balconies on deck 8 of Norwegian Encore or Breakaway or whatever, because they're the biggest. Don't tell anyone that. Shushy. Anyway, we'll move on from that. Yeah, most cabins nowadays have a balcony. Meanwhile, like 30 years ago, you'd barely find any ship with any balcony. So a lot of advantages in the newer ships, like the Encore. They have a lot of balconies on there.
Yeah, exactly. And when you talk about the beauties of Alaska, like you're a kid, like what was so beautiful about Alaska? That's like old people trip.
Well, you see, the thing about Alaska on the Encore specifically is when I was going to a port, I was able to go on the go-karts. There is a $20 fee if you want to go once, but if you want to go infinite times, you have to pay $200 for the ultimate go-kart pack, which means you can go infinitely on the go-karts, and you have to go 13 times in order for it to fully count and for you to say this is a worth it pack.
Right, and playing with house money, right? At that,
after
your 14th is basically free. 14th ride is basically free.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
So then the thing about it is I was on like the go-karts entering like I forget what port, but it was amazing just like driving the go-kart and just looking to my right and being like, oh yes, the beauties of like Alaska and their glaciers. Like the glaciers are amazing.
So glaciers are amazing, but if you're riding a go-kart while you see the glaciers, it's like just on another level.
I mean, if you're racing in like, well, it's all about lap time, not first place or whatever. But if you're like have the best lap time, then you just feel like, man, this makes it even better. But a balcony makes it even better because you just are like, oh God, I'm a little cold. Time to go inside, and then you can still see the beauties of it while being nice and cozy.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Yeah. So we talked about balcony cabins. We talked about inside cabins. Are there any other cabins that you want to talk about?
So there is Ocean View, which has a little window so you can see out. It's like around, like, I think from bottom to top, it's like a 2 foot, I think, if not 1 foot. But like you're able to see out sort of kind of thing.
Yep.
But like not a lot to where you can fully enjoy the beauties. Go on like the promenade deck or something, but that'd be crowded. So just get a balcony, save the time, and save yourself from getting stampeded in the promenade deck.
Okay. Now, one thing we didn't talk about is like
Yeah.
travel. Like we talked about the ports,
Yeah.
but like so when you went to Alaska, what
Mhm.
port did you go out of?
So Alaska can have many different ports that you can go out of, but the one that I went out of is Seattle. I got to see the Space Needle, and the Blue Angels actually went by the Space Needle, which made it like a lot better because I've never seen the Blue Angels in my life, and I'm like, are those the Blue Angels? And then I just take my mom's phone and snap a whole bunch of photos of the Blue Angels.
Nice. So obviously you have to fly to Seattle. So what is flying to a cruise and flying home from a cruise like?
Hold on, excuse me for the technical difficulties, and by that I mean myself. But yeah, basically if you're going to Seattle from like New York or something, it's around like a 5-hour flight. And once you land, you won't really feel the jet lag. But then when you get back to New York, you'll definitely feel jet lag. It took me a good 2-3 days, if not a week, to get back to my normal schedule. And then like going down to Seattle, I didn't have that much jet lag. I just felt like a little tired. But like other than that, I felt like no jet lag at all at like
Yeah.
5 p.m., which is
Didn't your brother feel jet lag though?
he felt a little bit of jet lag.
Wasn't he puking?
I mean, I don't he had like a cold. He might have gotten it on the plane or something, but it was just a cold. Nothing to worry. It was just a cold. He threw up like once or twice, but he was safe to go on the cruise since he tested negative for COVID 48 hours before, and we also tested in the hotel room to make sure, and he was clear. So
Yeah. So were there any difficulties flying home? Like, was that a smooth trip or?
well, I mean, there was this one part like in Seattle Airport. If you ever go there and you're flying back, here's the thing: you need to get checked in, so then you can get through security, so that you can get to the full like restaurants and stuff. Because there's barely anything before security. Like there's a Starbucks. I was fine with the Starbucks for like a few minutes, but yeah, we just camped out there, waited for a little bit, and then went through security after it was done.
Got it. Okay.
But that was probably just that one day because there was a whole bunch of flights going out that day too. So
Okay.
yeah, it could have just been that day.
All right. So we're running, close to the end of this podcast episode. So what else on cruising do you want to make sure people understand?
So now since we're at the end and you stuck around for the entire podcast, thank you. I'd like to mention the do's and don'ts of cruising.
All
And
right.
now basically what they are is like what you can do, like what you do normally that you can't do or whatever, and vice versa. So the first thing that you can do is you can just have fun, just make sure not to hit anyone. The don't is don't bring any alcohol unless your cruise ship says so.
Right.
Another thing is don't step on the chairs next to a balcony because if a sudden gust of 40 knot wind, I don't know why you'd be standing out there, but if a sudden gust of wind just blows you off the ship and they have to come searching for you, it's basically your fault if you stand on the chair.
Right. It's your fault, right? You're out in the middle of the ocean by yourself thinking about, wow, I shouldn't have stood on that chair.
Yeah, another thing is don't bring anything valuable. Don't bring anything you don't want to lose across the balcony railing or across the promenade deck railing, because if you accidentally let go of your phone a little bit or if your hands are a little sweaty, boop, into the water forever kind of thing. Don't bring any valuable stuff.
And hang it over the edge, right?
Yeah, another thing is don't do parkour on the side of the ship because you could fall, hit the propeller, die, all that stuff. Don't smoke on the promenade decks unless your cruise ship allows you to in certain places.
Okay.
Don't throw your cigarettes over the ship, and
because the fish, they don't want cigarette butts.
Well, right? It could get sucked back on the ship.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You could throw it from your balcony and it could go down and go suck back into another balcony.
No, it could get sucked into into a water thing, and it could set it on fire.
Okay, all right. So so it's fire. Fire is the biggest threat at sea, correct?
well, not the biggest threat. A threat
Icebergs?
which icebergs, they're not really a threat anymore. We can
Oh.
take that, but like a thing that you want to know is that you kind of want to know where you're going and know your ship's time. You need to know your ship's time. Because if you dock in like the Bahamas or something, they could be on a completely different time zone as your ship. So always get back 30 minutes before at least, so you don't be a pier runner and get booed out if you stroll. Just make sure you know the time on the ship
That's right.
and know the time in the port of call because they could be different.
And you don't want to be a viral video of running for the ship as the ship is sailing away, right?
Well, I mean, in some circumstances, yes, you don't want to be that person. Like when the ship is sailing away, there's no turning back. But sometimes they just put the gangway in. You're lucky enough to get the gangway pushed back out and hop aboard.
But you don't really want to be that guy, right?
Yeah, no, you don't want to be that guy or woman who's
Yeah.
running kind of thing.
Sure. Any other do's or don'ts?
Another thing you must do is have fun at all times. Stay positive because you need to stay positive in order to have a good cruise. Because you don't want to start a bad cruise. You want to make sure you know the ship. You want to make sure you know the time zones, all that stuff. What else is there? There might be one more thing that I'm forgetting at this time, but yeah, thank you for listening to.
Wait, I got one more
Oh, wait,
question.
what-
I got
what?
one more question for you.
Sorry.
So I'm just wondering, like when you're a kid, right?
Yeah.
So when you're on a cruise, do you shower more than you normally do at home, or do you shower less?
So depending on the port, I do shower a little more. I at least shower 2 to 3 times on a cruise of a 7-day because one day could be like trying to get all the chlorine off my body from the pool or whatever. Either way, actually, I shower almost every day on a cruise because of the chlorine. I want to get that off of me.
Mhm.
I want to get the sand off of me if they have sand on the private island. I just want to make sure I stay clean because you never know what diseases the ship is carrying.
Right.
Kind
Yeah.
of thing.
So you're all about showering on a cruise, but at home not so much.
I mean, I at least shower twice a week at home.
Okay.
Like once at the beginning, once close to the end
Of the week. Okay.
of the week.
All right. So we cover that, and then I think there's one other thing I think we should
Yeah.
talk about. And again, you're an 11-year-old boy. I can't believe we didn't talk about this. Let's talk about the toilets on the cruise ship.
Oh yeah.
Because they're not like the toilet you have in your house, right?
Yeah, no, it's not the one where you flush. So basically, what you don't want to do is actually they're very powerful, but don't throw anything in there like cigarettes or anything other than toilet paper and poop and pee and whatever. Because if you do that, it may clog the system, and you'll have to. It will be a poop cruise. It will be bad.
A poop cruise. That would be when poop's coming out of the toilets, right?
I mean, actually, there was an instance of this a few years back in 2015 or whatever, but you can search that up on your own time on Google after this podcast. But any other questions, Ed?
Well, the toilet you said powerful, but
yeah,
I still don't think you
powerful.
described it
Oh, yeah,
wholly.
yeah,
Like, I mean, it's
yeah.
completely unique. So explain it a little bit.
So it's unique because it doesn't have a flush handle. You actually have to click a button and it goes
It's like a vacuum, right? It's just like
almost
sucks
like
it out.
it's almost like a plane's bathroom, except for a little less violent
And not as blue, right?
and no,
Right?
yeah.
It's not blue. It's
Yeah,
normal.
no, it's normal lighting. It's actually a pretty big shower on Norwegian, so that's another reason
Okay.
for it to come.
All right. So the toilet is unique. You also have to not the other rule, right? Besides
Yeah.
not throwing cigarette butts and anything but poop and pee down the toilet,
Yeah.
is that you can't be sitting on the toilet when you press the button, right? Because it'll suck your butthole out, right?
No, actually, no.
Why you tried it?
Yeah, I sat on it and it was fun. It's not.
Wait a
difficult.
second. You're a daredevil. It says do not sit on here when you flush the toilet. It says to close the lid. You actually sat on there and flushed it.
Well, I'm fine at least. I'm fine. The Norwegian takes for safety first, and their toilets are completely safe while sitting on there. But it's recommended.
But it's recommended not to do that. You're a daredevil that you tried it.
I
I never did that.
bet some other people have done it though.
Yeah, but I was always afraid it was going to suck my butthole right out.
No.
No, okay. All right. Next time I'm going to flush it when I'm still sitting there. Okay.
Well, that is if the poop is starting to overflow, kind of thing.
Is that why you did it? 'Cause-
No,
Oh,
not
okay.
really.
All right.
I just want to try. But anyway,
Okay.
any other questions, Ed?
No, I think that's it. I think we're ready to wrap it up. If anybody has any questions, you can reach out to the Drinking from the Garden Hose podcast crew, Obi or Ed, and we'll get those questions to Anthony, and we'll get them back, and we'll maybe have that on a future episode, some feedback if that happens. But Anthony, any last words you want to say? You want to close us out?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for listening to Drinking from the Garden Hose. My name is Anthony. This is Ed.
And the charm is that we suck.
No.
No? That's not the charm?
No, you do.
Oh,
Yeah, a little bit.
I suck.
Anyway,
But you don't? But you don't. Is that what you're saying?
Basically.
Okay.
But anyway, one more thing. You can download us anywhere. You can download us on Apple. You can download us on Samsung Music. You can download us on Spotify, anywhere you get your music. So, see you next time on Drinking from the Garden Hose.